Okay. So welcome to my talk, Effective IDE Usage. I'm Rabea. I've studied computer science at the University of Bremen and got a diploma in 2009. And currently I'm working as a developer, project and department lead at MEKO, which is also located in Germany. I'm mainly working with Eclipse technology like RCP, RAP and Tabris, and I'm a passionate Java developer with focus on clean code. So what is this talk about? I've seen a lot of developers which just type too much in their IDEs and are not really using the features of the IDEs, like auto-completion, or there are several settings in the IDE which should be adjusted according to your programming style, so you have some additional help by your IDE. I will talk about Eclipse, IntelliJ and Netbeans. There will be some screenshots of IntelliJ and Netbeans, and I will do some demo sessions in Eclipse because I'm mainly using Eclipse, so I'm feeling much more comfortable doing it in Eclipse. So let's do a quick hands up. Who's using Eclipse here? Okay, most of you, so you'd be happy that I'm showing the demos in Eclipse. And who's using IntelliJ? Okay, still a few people around. And who's using NetBeans? Only some of them. Okay. But you will still see all the stuff for the other IDEs too. And this will not be an introduction to IDEs in general. I'm just going to show some of the features which make your work life easier. This won't be a comparison of the three IDEs. Just talking about some of the stuff which is in there, and I can't really cover all the features, so this will be just about the Java standard edition development tools, certainly Java and no JSP or other stuff. And this won't be a do you know the shortcut talk, because I'm really bad at remembering shortcuts myself, so I'm not gonna bug you with this one. Then I'd like to thank Johannes Costares and Gert-Jan Wielenger for answering some questions about NetBeans, because I usually don't work with it, and the same for Andre Chepsov for IntelliJ Idea. So here's what we're going to talk about today. So we'll start with some general IDE setup, and then we go into the main features of the IDE. I did use Eclipse Juno Service Release 2. And this is what I'm showing in the demos, and IntelliJ Idea Ultimate and NetBeans 7.3 for the screenshots from the other IDEs. And if you're looking for the IntelliJ features, just have a look at the purple markers, and for NetBeans at the red markers. You will find them throughout the talk. And hopefully we will have some time for questions in the end, otherwise just come and find me in the hall. Let's start with the general IDE stuff. The first thing we probably want to do is share our settings for the whole team or for the whole company. So if we have to adjust the settings, that all the other team members get them too. There's one feature which is present in all the IDEs, which is export and import of the settings. So what you can do is you export the settings, send them by email or something to your co-workers, and they can import them. The bad thing is if you change some settings and everybody should apply them, they have to re-import them. The other thing you could do is auto-share the settings without sending emails. They will just pick up the new settings. In Eclipse, there you can use plugin customization entry in the Eclipse ini file. And for IntelliJ, there are several options like the configuration server plugin, version control, or template settings. And you can find instructions on the next slides, which I will skip for now. Then, if you're working with different teams or different project sets for different customers, you might want to open up multiple IDEs with different project sets, and the easiest thing to do it is to create links on your desktop to start the IDE with the project set. And for Eclipse, we have a workspace, and we can do it by grabbing a link for Eclipse on the desktop and adding the -data parameter to the link location, where we can put in the path to our workspace. And we can also use -show location to have a name in the window. Another option is to use, just a problem with the microphone when I'm switching here. What I generally do is that I have all my IDE instances here. I just give them names. They have different links in it. And when I put in the window title name, I can easily distinguish them here in the taskbar. So you can do the same thing for IntelliJ. You just put in the link location to your project path. And for NetBeans, there's a user dir where our information is stored. And so you have -- user dir and then the path to the user dir. If you're having several plugins in your IDE installed, you might have a problem upgrading to a new version of your IDE because you want to preserve all the installed plugins. And for Eclipse, you can only upgrade to minor versions from the IDE itself, so upgrading the Eclipse IDE itself. And if you want to go to a major version, you might want to export all your plugin settings first, so you can do it in the menu with file export install, and then you just download the new version and import all the installed plugins again, and probably zip it for team members, so yeah, they don't have to do the same process again. This is also available from the command line, or you can create a Yoxos profile, which does it automatically for you. You can set it up so it will automatically start with a new major version if one is available. For IntelliJ, you can choose different channels to update to major and minor versions, and it will try to update directly by applying patches. If this is not possible, you are pointed to the new installer. And for NetBeans, you have to download the new installer, but it will pick up all the plugins which were previously installed and check them if they are still compatible. Let's have a look at the general settings and menus in the IDEs. So if you want to have a look where the settings are, they can be found in the menu at different locations. They are all named differently, funnily. And if you're looking for shortcuts, then you can just point in some search word here, just looking for key, for example, and then it will show up the shortcut settings, so you can have a look which shortcuts are available in your IDE. The local history is a very important feature in the IDEs. So if you don't have a file in version control, you can still get back some old revisions by just using the local history feature of your IDE. For example, if you deleted a file, you can restore it by triggering the context menu on the parent folder and choose Restore. In NetBeans, it's very easy to see that it has a local history because it's shown as a tab in all of the editors, as shown in the corner here below. Then I'd really like to encourage you to explore some of the menus. If I trigger the context menu in Eclipse, for example, I have references for types available. If I go to the main menu, there are a lot of more features available, like implementers of my class, read and write access for fields, and referring tests. So please have a look at the main menu too, and not only at the context menu. So now let's start with a demo session about editor basics and editor features. So I will quickly go to my Eclipse IDE. And let's go to some basic features. I will just open up an editor. And I'm using the mouse feed plugin to show you which shortcuts I'm actually triggering if I use any. So to maximize an editor, to have more size to edit it, you can just double click on the editor tab, or you can press Ctrl M to minimize and maximize it. It's also very nice if you are having different versions of the file to compare them. So now I have a copy of the file here, and I can mark both files. And then I can trigger the context menu and choose compare with each other. So now I have them side by side and can just quickly see all the changes here. Like I've changed all the labels to German. And it's also very nice if you're working on a multi-monitor system, you can just drag the file out of the IDE, which I've done here now. So you have it as a separate window and can move it to another display. So let's have a look at some other nice features. When you're finding a snippet on a web page and you like to use it in your IDE, you can just copy it from the web page. And then you go to a package in your IDE and can just paste it, and it will automatically create the file for you. And now there's an error in it which is suspected. And I can put in a simple to-do fix me, and so this is marked. I can easily see it. And there is also a view for it, so now we can see I have a to-do item here, which I still have to fix. If I have a number of editors open, let's see, just open up some of the editors. And if I like to navigate between the editors, I can use Control E, which will show me a list of all the editors, and I can search within it. So if I'm looking for the run window, I can just use a search like that. If I like to close the current editor, I can press Control W, and if I like to close all of them, I can press Control Shift W. So let's go into some coding stuff. If I have a comma-separated file, for example, and I'd like to create a map from it, so here I have some file for you, and I can just copy all the items in there, and then I can go to a block selection mode up here, so it will change the editor style a bit, and what you can see now is that I can type in multiple lines at once. So I'd like to trigger the map put operation, and then I still have to replace a semicolon with a comma, which is easily done. And then I can go to the back. You can even add a location which doesn't exist yet and type the rest of the location and do a quick format, and then I'm done, and I can go out of the block selection mode again. So let's open up the Java 2D demo class again. I can trigger the open type dialog with Control Shift T, and I can also use a camel case search in here. So if I'm looking for Java 2D demo, I can only type Java 2D, and it will find all the files which have this in it and will mark it, so I can easily open it. What I have here right now is initial folding of some parts. You can set this up, so it's mentioned in the slides. So I have the copyright parts initially folded, so I don't have to see them. Now I like to find a method which is named action performed. I can do this easily by using Control J, which is an incremental find mode. You will see everything I type from now on here in the status bar. So if I'm looking for action performed, you can see that it's really performing an incremental find. It's jumping forward and backward when I'm typing. In this action performed method, I like to call a method which has something like a menu in it. I don't really remember what the method is called, so I can trigger with Control O, I can trigger a quick type assist, which will show me all the methods which are available. And I can type star menu to see, yeah, the method was called create menu bar actually. So if I jump here and I like to go back to my previous location, I can use it with Control Q. I can go back to the last added location, which is very useful in this case. Then I will use the content assist to actually complete the create menu bar for me, so I can use Control Space with it. Then let's comment this one out, because we don't use it anymore. And let's see where else this create menu method is used. If I go over the create menu method and have this toggle mark occurrences on, you can see here a lot of locations where it's used. If I want to simply jump between these locations, I can go here and I have to check occurrences. And then I have to use Control dot or Control comma to go forth and back between the different locations. So if I want to delete a line, I can just use Control D, and I'm done with this for now. Okay, then let's go back to the slides, and let's quickly jump on over it. I will upload the slides later, so you have a written edition of what I did in the demo parts. Okay, I guess you're all here to learn how to get rid of the Java AWT imports if you don't really use them and only want to use java.util.List. So here's how you can do it. In Eclipse, for example, we have in the preferences under Java appearance type filters, we can just put in the name Java AWT, and it will never show up in our import proposals anymore, so it will directly use java.util.List if you are not working with Java AWT. And if you're working in Eclipse, you probably like to adjust the number of imports needed for the star, so for the whole package for static imports, because it's usually set to 99, which is a kind of a problem if you're working in test cases and like to import the whole assert package, and if you're organizing imports, it will go away again. Then some nice feature is syntax coloring, which you can also use to find possible issues in your source code immediately by just having some nice coloring. So here's an example which I often use, marked in red. There in the lower part we have a parameter, which is auto-unboxed, and I always mark it in red if there's some auto-unboxing stuff, because you can have nasty null pointer exceptions which are very hard to find if you can pass null into this method. And I also use different colors for parameters, so I know that I probably don't want to assign a new value to a method, to a parameter which is passed into the method. Then formatting options. One team should use the same formatting options for a file, so you can easily share them with the stuff I've shown at the start of this talk. If you're using prefixes for fields like m_, you can set it up in your IDE so it will respect that you're using prefixes or suffixes, and it will create a get field instead of get m_ field if you're using create getters or setters. Then the IDEs have detailed formatting options for the source code, so we have a screenshot of NetBeans here, and we can see that we can tell the IDE if we want to have some new lines after else or finally blocks, for example. So have a look at the formatting options. There's a lot you can do automatically without typing too much. Code templates are there to help you to execute often used tasks. They are also there to have a general structure of your source code, so this can all be set up if you like to have your fields at the bottom of your class, for example. It can usually be set up using the templates, and it can also contain copyright or default comment setup. And what is particularly useful are the smart code snippets. So we have an example of IntelliJ here. And if you are typing ITCO and use the content assist to complete the statement, then here below we have the template text, and you can use variables in the template. Here, for example, we like to iterate over a collection. So we have the collection here as a variable, and it will pick up the last collection used in your source code and automatically create the block we can see here. So you probably want to alter the block which is generated for exceptions. If you don't like to log to the console window, but log to SLF4J instead, you should really alter it and not change it every time you type it. Then we have save actions. In Eclipse, there are save action profiles, which can be set up to do some actions when you save a file. So you can set it up to automatically format your file or organize the imports, use qualified access with this for fields. And there's also additional cleanup profiles which can be triggered manually. For IntelliJ and NetBeans, there's about the same thing. Just you have to find it in different locations in the preferences. It's not in one profile, but you have different switches for it. Then let's have a look at the content assist and refactoring. I will again switch to Eclipse to show you some of the stuff in there. So let's create a new type, which I will call person. New person class. And then I'd like to have a constructor, and this is where the smart code snippets or templates come into play. So I can just use CRSDR control space, and it will generate the constructor for me. And then I like to use some parameters for my class, a name and an age. And what I can do now is to create fields from it with control 1, which is a quick fix. So it will generate the fields for me, which is, I think, the quickest way you can generate a bean class. And then I like to have getters for it. I can just type get control space, and it will autocomplete to get name or get age. And I like to have equals and hash code in here as well. So I will just override the method equals with also control space. And then I have to move up to my class. It will show me here that I probably also want to override hash code. And so I can use a quick fix here, control 1, and generate hash code and equals, and just complete it with return. And now I have a hash code and equals method easily done here. Let's also do a toString method, and just put in the return name for now. Then I would like to have a more useful method. So I have a use object method. I will put in an item. The item does not yet exist, but I will just go on typing my source code. And I need an if-else statement, so I can also trigger it with control space by just typing if. And what I'd like to do is, if the item is usable, I return item.use, and else I return false. And what I do now is let Eclipse generate an interface for item for me. I can also use it with control 1 and just type return. So I have the interface now. I can go back to the other editor with Alt left. And then I will just create the missing methods and the use method and go back and just save everything, and so I have this item method now. I'd like to implement the item now with a boat class, and I can do it easily by typing F4, which is the open type hierarchy. We don't have a type hierarchy yet, but I can right-click and say new class. It will automatically fill in the interface for me. So let's create the boat class. It will autofill all the methods I need here is usable will be true. And if use is called, I'd like to print out a statement. I can use systrace for it. And so you can see it will automatically create a string with class name and method name in it. Then let's run our class. I need a main method for it, main control space. And I will need a new person. And I can quickly assign this, new person with Alt-Shift-L statement. Usually I can do it if Eclipse would like it for now, but just try it, it should work. And then I will call the item use object with my new boat class. And let's quickly run it with Alt-Shift-X-J. You can see it here. Does it run now? No, it doesn't. One moment. So we can see the output of boat use here now because we have used the boat. This is a particular bad name to have it use object because we now pass in an item, so I will rename it to use item. I can use Alt-Shift-R to use the inline refactoring and just rename it to use item. Then I'd like to jump into the method with a F3, and I'd like to alter the item use method, so I will also pass in the person. And I can use a quick fix again to quickly change the method to use a person parameter. And then I can use Control T to have a quick type hierarchy of my item class, and I will move to the boat class and quickly fix the person parameter. I'd also like to print it out now. The easiest way to do it is just to type enter here. So you will have a new line, put in the person and press format again to reformat all that stuff. What we have here right now is not really nice if we want to internationalize our class. So I will quickly change it with a quick fix to use message format for the string concatenation instead. So this is much easier now. I'd also like to keep track of a list of persons which have last used the boat. So I will need some kind of list here, and I can just type it here. It doesn't exist yet, but it doesn't matter. I will just use a quick fix to create a field the last used for me. And with Shift-Tab, I can move to the location object here and say it will be a list of person. And now the import is automatically done because I excluded java AWT. I will initialize it to a new array list. I can just use new AL control space, and it will show me all the classes which have an A and an L in it. So I can use array list here, and I'm done. Okay, then let's just go back to our class and run it again. I can run the last use class again with Control F11. F11, sorry, that was German. And so I have the boat use with a name in it here now. So let's go back to the presentation. And as I said before, there are also slides available which will describe what I've done right now. You've seen some refactoring actions I've used, like the rename. And there are a lot of refactoring actions available in the IDE, so this is an overview what IntelliJ has for you. And refactoring is very useful operation because it's a safe operation to restructure your code. You don't want to do it by hand because you can introduce errors, and refactoring will apply it as a safe action. So let's have a look at static code analysis. This can find potential errors in your code before actually running it. So you can find, for example, possible null pointer exceptions, which can happen when you pass a null to a method and something is called on that parameter. And there are plugins available for PMD and find bugs for all the IDEs. In Eclipse, we also have the Eclipse compiler for Java, which is an incremental compiler which is used in Eclipse, which will generate additional warnings and errors for you, but you have to set it up. So please go to the preferences and look what the Eclipse compiler can do for you. So you can see it immediately in your source code because it's done on compile time. In IntelliJ Idea, we have inspections which are running in the background. You can set them up alike, but they are not run at compile time. It will run an additional task for you. In NetBeans, it's located at editor hints in the preferences, and NetBeans also features a powerful inspect and transform action, which you can use to transform your source code from Java 6 to Java 7 features, like try with resources automatically. So here's how it looks like in NetBeans. We have a lot of options available to find probable bugs here, like equals with a null passed in, or yeah, just have a look at that. Then we have our console window to see the output from our application. You might want to change the character limit of the console, but because it usually doesn't have as much output as you might need. And you can also set it up to show automatically if an error is written to the console window. In Eclipse, there's also a stack trace console window, which you can find in the toolbar of the console. If you open this up, you can paste in stack traces of log files, for example, and it will do all the highlighting which you're used to in the normal console. Then we have a very useful feature, external tools. You can call external tools in your operating system from your IDE, and you can pass in variables from your IDE to the external tools if you like to open the Windows Explorer with the currently selected files. So here's how you do it in IntelliJ. Here's just a name and a group. That's not really important. Then you can tell IntelliJ where this should be shown in the context menu or in the main menu. And then we have the program pass here, very simple. And as a parameter, I will use an action for the Windows Explorer called select, and I will pass in the path to my current file. So it will open up the Windows Explorer with a currently selected file. You can do the same to open up a console window, for example, if you need to trigger some actions in your operating system. Let's have a look at the debugger now, and this will also be a demo session. So debugging in general, how's it done? You will first need to set up some breakpoints. Usually breakpoints are set up in the code just here. Let me quickly have some line numbers. So you usually use it in just normal lines, but you can also set up breakpoints for classes, which are triggered when the class is loaded, or for methods, which are triggered on method entry. And you can also have breakpoints for fields, which are triggered when the field is accessed or modified. You can set this up in the breakpoint properties. So you can say access or just modification. What you can also do is have breakpoints for exceptions, which is very useful if you have an exception which is thrown in a thread and you don't have a default handler for it, so the exception is not shown. And you can do it here under the breakpoints tab and have an add Java exception. And I will use a null pointer exception for now. And let's quickly change our class here to pass in a null instead of a boat. And if I run my class in the debugger now, it will stop at this location, suspended with a null pointer exception, and I don't have any breakpoints set here. What is very useful in the debugger that you can just change your code and it will hot swap the code you just type in here and you don't have to restart. So I can easily fix the null pointer exception now by checking that the item is not null and then checking that it's usable. You have seen a short flickering now, and this meant the code was reloaded. And if I go through it now, it will just say return false, what we do expect. Let's change it to use boat class again. And let's go into the boat class. And what I want to do here now is I like also to track the time when the boat was last used. So I will start with a calendar get instance class call. And now extract local variable is working now. And so I call it calendar. And now I will set the debugger to this location here, and if I debug it, and we stop at this location, and you can see that the calendar class doesn't have a real nice output. You can't really see what the time and date is. If you right-click on this line, then you have the new detail formatter option, and you can type source code here to reformat your variable, which is then shown differently in the debugger. So I will just use the get time so I can get back a date, because the date has a better toString method. And if I use that, I have a readable form of my calendar here. What is also very nice is when I step to this class with F6, and I've now have some stuff in the last used by, and I can tell Eclipse to please show me all the references to the person class by using all references. Or what I can also do is change the layout here to show references, and now I can see that I have one reference to my person class. I can even look up where it is referenced here, and I can see our calendar doesn't have any references like expected. Let's have a look at this last used array list. If you have an array list, you see all these kinds of fields here. And if you have to have a look what is really inside, you have to know that you have to go into element data. This is probably not what you want to do. There's a small trigger action up here, show logical structure. And show logical structure will remove all the fields we don't really want to see. And so we can just see our items in here, which is even much more useful for hash maps. And I've actually done a slight mistake here, because I've put in a wrong age for me. I'm actually 29. So if I need to change a value because I expect a certain action which is triggered by a field or something, I can just change the value here. So I will change it to 29. And it will be really changed within the person object. So if I step further to this class and have a look at the person again, the age is still 29. So this can be useful sometimes. Let's have another example with a concurrency class. We can have nasty errors with concurrency. So let's have a look what this is doing here. I will have 2 bank accounts and have a fixed executor which will transfer some money from one bank account to the other every 1 millisecond. And it should print out some stuff on the console when it's actually transferred the money. If I now debug this Java application, we can see that we just have 2 lines of output here, but it should be 1 line per millisecond. So it seems like there's some error in it. Let's go to the debugger. I don't have any breakpoints here for now, and I'd like to see what my code is currently doing. So I can use this suspend option here and jump into the threads and see what they're actually doing. I really can click in here and see what the parameters and stuff are. But what I'd really like to know, did we probably run into a deadlock? I can go to the toolbar menu here and trigger Java show monitors. And now it will immediately show me that we are really running into one deadlock here. So if we show the show monitors option triggered, then we can see that these 2 threads are deadlocked, and we can even see on what monitors they are deadlocked. So if I just click in here, we can see that I'm actually badly synchronizing my stuff up here. So this did result in the deadlock. And there's another possibility what we can do if I'd quickly like to see what my code is doing at a certain location. I can use, for example, for the system out println example, if I'd like to see what this message format is actually outputting, I can use Ctrl-Shift-I to quickly evaluate this expression. So if I don't have a certain variable, I can use it to just see what the message format will do and will output both use. And if I use Ctrl-Shift-I a second time, it will move this to the expressions view, so I have it available while debugging. Okay, that were some of the features of the debugger. There's quite much more to show, but this was just a small introduction. Let's move to the end of the talk, and what you can also do in your IDE is to change the general look and feel of your IDE. There were some people which didn't really like how the new Eclipse is looking like, so you can still change it and use the classic theming. There is also another bunch of themes available, so what you can also do if we start up multiple instances, you can give each of the instances a different color, so it's easier to distinguish them. This is the same for IntelliJ, and NetBeans currently doesn't have this option now, but it will be introduced in the next minor release. For now, you have to go with applying the look and feel yourself. Okay, where did I get all this information from? Did you actually ever had a look at the help pages of your IDE? Because there's quite good help pages available. So there's how you can find them in the web or directly in your IDE. And if you're looking for sections like getting started, tips and tricks, and important shortcuts, it will contain basically all the stuff I've just told you. And please read the release notes which come with a new release of your IDE, because normally it will mention all the new features which are available, so you will just keep up to date with this information. And if you find a bug in your IDE, we are all developers, so we know how bad it is if nobody's telling you that there's a bug in your code you have written. And please file a bug report for this. If you think there's a feature missing in the IDE, please go to the preferences and search for it first. Maybe there's a nice little switch, because your IDE comes with some sensible defaults, but they might not be good for you, and so just have a look if there's other possibilities available. And you can also develop your own little plugin in your IDE. If you have some actions which are not available yet, you look at the API and create your own plugin. So to have a summary of my talk, please explore all the features of your IDE. You should know the tools you're working with every day, so to make your work more efficient. Be lazy and let the IDE do mostly all the work. You've seen in my quick demo sessions that you can even refer to code you have not written yet, and just let the IDE create the code for you, so you don't really get out of flow just creating the item class first. You can just write all the code you might need later and then auto-generate it. Please create settings and share them with the whole team if you're working in the team, so you don't have any problems in your version control with different white spaces or kinds like that. I would recommend to do some learning shortcut sessions in regular time intervals. In Eclipse you have seen the mouse feed plugin. You can even set it up to deny a command if you trigger it with the mouse. So it will show you, please use this keyboard action and don't use the mouse. You probably don't want to do it all day, because probably you're not getting anything done then, but just do it for an hour a day or something and you will get faster and faster. Yeah, I will post the slides or the link to my slides on Twitter during this day, so you can look everything up, all the shortcuts I've used and all that other stuff. And please try Java 8 today. This is already possible with NetBeans and IntelliJ. they all have early access builds to try out Java 8. Eclipse hasn't done it yet because, as I told you, they have their own Eclipse compiler for Java. So they have to rewrite their compiler to accept the Lambda statements, and NetBeans and IntelliJ just use the Java compiler. So for Eclipse, it's a bit more work to do. Okay, then we still have 4 minutes of time for some questions. Does anybody have some questions? Yes? Okay, the question is if you have a team which is using different IDEs, how you can share the settings. I have to say I didn't explore this myself yet, so I think there might be a way to import the settings which are exported from another IDE to import it in your IDE, but I'm not quite sure about this yet. Yes, please?
I have some favorite refactoring tools like extract method, extract variable. I was wondering if there are any you find yourself using that you would like to share.
Not really. I mean, I'm using extract variable, extract method. I'm also using these a lot. There's probably inline method, which comes in handy if you are not using or don't want to use this method anymore. And yeah, there's not quite a lot of actions available in Eclipse itself, so IntelliJ comes with a lot of more actions there. And no real recommendations, just go and explore them yourself. So the question was which actions are present in IntelliJ, which are not present in other IDEs. And there is, for example, creating factories or builders, which I think is not available in Eclipse. So if you have a real little long constructor you would usually write, and then you can just refactor it to use a builder instead, which is much more readable. Okay. Any other question? Yeah. So can you do something of that with custom code templates? There's actually a lot you can do, even if you are using a framework and you are using some kind of code snippets real often. You can just try to make a code template out of it. So you just put in the variable name as a variable in the template, and then you can easily change it with some refactoring actions. So this is probably what you want to do. Any other questions? Yes?
So Emacs has got a program for Eclipse. It's the macro system that needs some IDEs. We got a programming language we can use to program it. So perhaps we've got arrows,
I'm not sure if I understand your question. So you are referring to macros in Emacs? So you can use a programming language to write your macro, right? And in the IDEs, templates are using velocity engine. So I don't know what velocity is really capable of, but there's a lot which can be replaced in this. And if you really like to perform a more smarter action, then you can probably write your own plugin to do it. But I would just have a look and try it out, what it can really do. I've never been in the situation that I needed something more like that. Okay, the time is up now. If anybody else has a question, just come and find me outside. And thanks for attending my talk.